The writing residency is still afoot, but we have a much more serious update for you about the state of our barn. Welcome back, everyone. It's week 2 of the writing residency, and the writers are ensconced in front of the fire, and everyone's quite happy. Writing and reading are afoot. The fire is going. I think I'm going to take a couple of minutes to relax. While the writers are ensconced in front of the fire and before Steve and I have to kick in to make supper, I'm going to be taking a few minutes for self-care. I'm going to be using my UFO 3 deep hydration device by Foreo Sweden, and I've been using it for a little over a month now, and I'm noticing a difference in how my skin looks and feels. I have normal skin, not too dry, not too oily, and other than a little red patch from not being too careful with sunscreen over the years. I feel like the UFO 3 has made a big improvement of the hydration of my skin and reduced the look of some of the laugh lines around my eyes. And today I'm using the Glow Addict Mask for that little boost of radiance. This is the perfect pick-me-up for when I don't want to wear too much makeup, but I also want my skin to look fresh and lifted, since we are hosting guests today. One of the things I love about the UFO 3 is the customizable settings. There's an app that lets you adjust the treatment, or you can use it with preset settings. You can choose between warming or cooling, and the LED lights help target different skin concerns. So today I'm going to be going for the warm setting because it just feels really nice on the cool day that we've got going on outside. So there you go. I am completely refreshed and ready for the rest of the day ahead. Honestly, I've really been enjoying how the UFO 3 makes my skin feel, and I've noticed maybe a coincidence, but about maybe 6 weeks ago, I was getting some comments saying that I didn't look very well and that people wondered if I was sick. And since I've started using the UFO 3, those comments just don't show up anymore. So that's a great outcome. Now here's some amazing news. The UFO 3 is rarely on sale, but Foreo Sweden is having their biggest sale of the year for Black Friday. You can get up to 50% off and an extra 10% off when you use our code 10MANOR at checkout. This is a really rare opportunity. It only happens once a year, so please take advantage of this opportunity to get a really enjoyable product. Click on the link in the description of the video to take advantage of this deal before it's gone. Your wellness routine will thank you. Well, what's the verdict?
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, it certainly doesn't look good. It's a big hole. And it has collapsed, and there's definitely some beams that have broken, structural beams that have broken.
Yeah.
I'm still a little buoyed by the fact that if you are going to have a hole, it's the quote-unquote best place to have a hole in the roof. Simply because there's 3 stone walls around the hole.
Okay.
Rather than it being out in the middle, in a much bigger area. But that's...
Yeah, it's off to one end as opposed to being right in the center.
Yeah. Which is, it's small mercies. It doesn't make it any better. It's gonna have to be fixed. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. So, yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, the barn was a big reason why we liked this chateau. And
it was a big draw.
Yeah. And it's such a beautiful structure. It would be so sad to lose it. We're not intending on losing it. And if we have anything to say about it, it will not be lost.
Exactly.
All right. Well.
So here's the barn update.
Yes.
So the members have had a bit of an update, and we've given updates over the years because about, almost exactly a year ago, because it's been a year to the day since we've heard from the roofer that we signed a quote with, and then we never heard from him again. So it was a year and a day, and I just emailed him and said, we're moving on, sorry.
Yeah.
Because the roof has now collapsed. What started as a sag and turned into a hole after a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Eventually just kind of gave way and collapsed. So now we're in a much worse state, but we had a couple of people come by, which again was on member videos, but I think we found the person now.
Yeah. So just to give, we knew that there was a hole in the roof when we bought the chateau.
There wasn't then.
Well, there was a tiny one. It was a tiny one.
Tiny.
But that to be said, that we knew that the roof was going to require work. That was part of the listing when we first looked at the chateau. So we knew we were going to have to deal with an issue. But yeah, as Sarah pointed out, there was a storm that made it far worse, opened it up. You may have remembered that I did try and cover it with a tarp.
Oh, yeah.
Worked for a short period of time, but what ended up happening was, because the structure underneath was already weakened, by putting the tarp on and not being able to tent it,
Like sort of like prop it up from the inside.
the weight of the water on it actually didn't help. So
No.
we had to remove that off of there. Which was unfortunate. And then, a couple of months ago, or I guess a few weeks ago, really, it finally gave in. There's a major structural beam that has collapsed, which then pulled everything else down.
And that's what caused us to pull the trigger and say farewell to the person that we signed a quote with, and move on to someone who's seems to be willing to show up. So.
Well, and on top of that, the previous quote was really just to fix that area as well. But there's no point in putting a Band-Aid on it. The entire back end of the roof needs to be completely overhauled.
Well, the whole roof.
The whole roof, and there's some structural issues. There's a pillar that needs to be shored up. So the new quote will have all of that.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is it's sort of set up into two, or broken into two phases. The first phase will be actually shoring up the area that is broken already, so that it can survive, because the contractor can't get to it probably for another year, which is, par for the course in France.
Well, I think par for the course everywhere. A good tradesperson isn't available immediately.
Yeah. So, but he will at least be able to get it to a point where we no longer have to go through every rainstorm thinking, oh my god, the barn's going to fall over. So that actually would be a reassurance. So that makes life a little easier. And then when he's available to get here, then we know that the whole roof will be done, and we can then move on with our plans. Because we have great plans for this building. We really want it to be a working space. We want it to be a show space.
We want it to be an atelier. We want it to be a gallery. We want it to be Steve's studio.
Painting studio for me, which would be awesome.
Possible a residency.
And then we can move on to things like getting electrical hooked up here, getting plumbing hooked up here. There's really no point in us doing any of that until the roof is secure. I think we may have finally found at least a path forward.
Here's hoping.
Here's hoping. But it's going to cost us. As you know, these things don't come for free. We're working on strategies to make that happen as well. But stay tuned. Yeah.
That's if you guys want DIY, this is going to be it for the next year. You're going to hear us talk about, well, we can't do this because of the barn for about the next year. So
exactly.
We just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who supported the barn restoration fundraiser back in June 2023. Thanks to your generosity in purchasing Steve and Andy's beautiful illustrations through our website, we have held those funds in reserve, and they will be part of the restoration in the future when the current roofer shows up. So even though the work isn't finished yet, your contributions are still making an impact, and we are so grateful for your support. Moving around back to actually look at the hole, this is what it looked like back in March when I gave the last update to the members about the insurance and the quotes and whatnot. And then we had someone else come out and have a look to see if they wanted to quote for it, but it turned out it was too big of a job for them, and this is what it looked like when they quoted in September.
So as a result of the hole getting much bigger and the structural beam breaking, you can see the beams underneath here, or the trusses, have lifted, which means that the trough is now useless. It's going to have to be replaced. The soffit down into the cistern Yeah, and you can see the rest of the roof is just starting to undulate a lot more. The wood underneath is starting to warp, so
Yeah, the damage on this little pediment up here.
yeah, that's gonna have to
And
be
it's going to
changed.
start degrading the wall there.
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, fortunately, it is a stone wall, which gives me a longer time, or gives it a longer timeline.
Yeah.
Certainly not perfect, but yeah, it's not going to rot through as quickly as wood would.
Woodwood.
But not a great thing.
Yeah.
All the tiles are going to have to be replaced too. You can see there's a lot of vegetation on the tiles.
Yeah. Moss and overgrowth.
Yeah, and it's just going to weaken the terracotta after a while, so we're going to have those replaced. But you can also see, like here, the pillar.
Yeah, this pillar is starting to bow, actually.
Yeah, the pillar's starting to bow. You can see the bottom is starting to fall apart. This is something that the roofer indicated to us as well. So, yeah, it's a bit of a concern, this one. So we're going to have to shore that up completely. Because, again, that goes and the roof goes. There's no two ways about it. So we have to make sure that stuff is taken care of.
And I think this outdoor space would be amazing. Like eventually if we had this all cleared out and we could put trestle tables under here and some lights, I think it would be a lovely outdoor informal party space, you know?
It would do. Yeah, I think it would be great. We need to clear a bunch of the bramble and stuff like we do on most of the property.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice secluded little spot. Great for,
very private.
For an evening meal or something.
Yeah. Someday, 'twill all be done.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you don't get into this kind of project. It's a marathon, not a sprint for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we know we've got a lifetime of projects, but this is a big one for us, for our business, for our guests to be able to enjoy this structure. So
yeah, the full extent of our property, really, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's a critical thing. I mean, obviously it's critical because quite literally, if we don't do anything in the next, well, I don't even want to hesitate how long, but yeah, a year is sort of. I think
it would all go in the next year. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we would be in serious trouble. Not that it can't be rebuilt, but we certainly don't want to have to do that if we don't have to.
Yeah, don't want it on our watch. So.
No, exactly. We are the custodians of these properties after all.
Exactly.
So we need to keep it moving for the next generation and keep it upright. So we're going to do that.
We'll do it.
Yeah, with your help.